Okay, guys, we will be rating Adelaide Crows season out of 10. Of course, there were some good things in there. Tex Walker's 10 goals, and then, of course, we saw Ben Key's controversy, winning a couple of showdowns. So I think Adelaide has had a decent year in general. Should have made the 8, but I'm going to give him the number 5.5 out of 10, which is a decent number in my opinion. Okay, guys, now we are going to move on to the Brisbane Lions, who had a brilliant year, of course. One of the best years I've seen from an AFL team. Of course, we saw the Brisbane Lions dominated the Gabba, undefeated in the Gabba this year, and also Lockie Neal win the Brownlow. Charlie Cameron going for Coleman. So this year was an absolute ripper-dipper for the Brisbane Lions. I am going to give them a big score, which is 8.5 with how their performance was this season. I think that's a fair one. We all know this year for the Blues was an absolutely beautiful one. Wow, let's talk about the run. So in round 13, they were 15th on the ladder, and in the last 11 rounds, they worked so hard and ended up finishing 5th to play an elimination final. Oh my days, a home one. So then they played it. They won the elimination final, won the semi-final, and moved on to a big prelim, which could have led up to a grand final. Vossi would be a happy coach. It's probably the best season, a big comeback from the Carlton Blues, of course, finishing 15th after round 11. No one would have thought they would have made 13, but they did. They are a warrior team. I'm going to give them an 8. But they deserve way more than 8 in my opinion, but I'm going to give them an 8. Okay, guys, now we're moving on to the Crazy Pies, who made a granny, of course, finishing first on the ladder, minor premiers, and then moving on to the AFL Grand Final and winning it, of course. That's a big year from the new coach of Collingwood. We wouldn't have expected them to finish first and win a flag after that choke against West Coast in a grand final 2018. But here they are, won a flag. I think I'll give them a 9.5 because they were pretty good this season, winning the flag as well. Okay, guys, now we're going to move on to the Essendon Bombers, of course. They're a terrific, a good run, I guess, finishing 11th in the ladder, just missing out on the 8. But you have to be harsh with the team that finished below the 8, but they had a good season in general. I mean, they had some good players, they had some good times, I guess, but it wasn't what we would have been hoping for. They would have been looking at the top 8, but I think I'm going to give them this is tough, a 4.5 due to where they finished. One of the most disappointing years for the Fremantle Dockers, finishing 15th on the ladder. We'd expected more from them to make the 8 and so on, probably even expecting top 4 from them. But they hadn't delivered with some good players. They experienced lacked, and it was a really bad year from them, in my opinion. One of the worst years I've seen from them. But I'm going to give them a 3.5, honestly. Not the best year from them, but there's more to improve. Well, this year was a big downfall for the Cats as they finished, of course, last year, the champions of the league, and now they fell out of the top 8, finishing 12th. Of course, not the best year from them, but there's lots to improve on, but pretty brainwashed, really. Jeremy Cameron, Hawkins, I had the players, but they couldn't convert it, so I'm just going to give them a 4. A 4, yeah. I think they could have done more to their capability. Now, guys, we're moving on to the Gold Coast Suns, of course. Another disappointing year for them, finishing 15th. We were expecting them to go around the top 8 mark. Of course, didn't get there, but it was a lack of depth, of course. It wasn't their breakout year we thought they would have, but I'm honestly going to give them a 2. no, I'm not that harsh. I'm going to give them a 3 with the capability they have and all the talent they have in this young team. Okay, guys, now we're going to move on to GWS, of course. A good year from them, of course, making a semi-final and then also the prelim, I think. I don't know, but they did pretty well this season, of course. We saw them make a semi-final appearance and, yeah, they made a prelim. Yeah, they did. Met the Saints, did pretty well. I think I'll give them a 7.5, if you ask me. That was a pretty good season from them. Okay, for Dipper 1. Okay, guys, now we're going to move on to the Hawthorn Hawks, of course. Good year from them, of course. Looking like a top 8 team, actually, they look like, even though they finished 14th, they look like a top 8 team. Big upsets there. There were some big upsets, so you can't say they were a bad team. I think I may give them a 4.5 for fighting there. I'm not being biased because it's my team, but I'll give them a 4.5 for fighting against good teams as well. Of course, this was an average season from the Melbourne Demons, of course, having a good year, finishing in the top 4, getting knocked down straight sets again, so I'm not surprised, but not also the happiest. You wouldn't be as happy if you're a Melbourne fan, but I'm going to give them a 7 with how hard they work, but yeah, 7. Okay, guys, now we're going to move on to North Melbourne, of course. They finished 17th in the ladder, 18th last year, so there's a 1 gap improvement, of course. But not a good year for them. Let's be for real here. But not as bad as the West Coast as well, so I will not say much, but I'm going to give them a 2 for how hard they work this year, of course. Not the best year for them, but there's still some improvement upcoming years for them. Okay, guys, now moving to Port Adelaide, of course. Okay year from them. Finishing in the top 4. Of course, we saw Zach Butters as a standout and some good forwards out there. So I guess they are a good team in general. So I will give them I'll give them an 8. Okay, guys, now moving on to the Richmond Tigers, of course. They didn't finish in the top 8, but did not also have a decent year. But they were a good team. They were good fighters. They had Dustin Martin. They had Tim Taranto, who was pretty good. But I'll give them a 4. I'll give them a 4 for how well they did this season with the fight. But yeah. Okay, guys, now we're moving on to the St Kilda Saints, of course, making the 8. Also doing pretty well in the 8, so they did pretty well, I guess. Lost the elimination final against GWS, which was pretty hard for them. But they gave a good fight during the home and away season. But I'm going to give them a 6 because of all the work they did to make finals. They really do. I'll give them a 6, but yeah. Now moving on to the Sydney Swans, who made the top 8, just slid in to make a top 8 spot and now play in the finals. Of course, they had a good year in general as well, but there was also a bit more to fight for them. But I guess you can't complain. They had some good players like Isaac Heaney in the forward line, which is pretty good, I guess. I'll give them a 5.5. So yeah, that was a good season for them. Good. Okay, guys, now moving on to West Coast, who had the worst season, losing by a big margin against the Swans, of course, we remember that. They had really no standout play by Tim Kelly and Oscar Allen, so I'm going to give them a 1.5 for the worst season by any AFL team by far. Okay, guys, now we're moving on to the Western Bulldogs, who had also a magnificent season, but not the best of seasons as well. But it was a decent year from the Western Bulldogs, fighting for the 8. And yeah, it was a good season from the Dogs, I guess, a decent one. But I'm giving them a 5. So yeah, thank you, guys.